Hello everybody, I'm going to talk about my experience of the Moreton Bay Poetry Slam at North Lakes Library. When I started to play my djembe, the magpie that was sitting on Mum's sunlanger flew away. It could be related to my djembe playing or the fact that I'm speaking on the microphone. I had difficulty delivering my rap because I didn't have a lectern to place my poetry book on, which I'm used to having because I've been using a lectern ever since I got the shakes in my hands and I started to stutter when I was rapping at a school where the basketball court was used for church services. I lost a bit of time picking my book up off the ground and turning pages. My poem was written on 3 different pages. If you can have all your words on the same page, you're obviously more likely to not have problems with having to turn pages. I got a fairly low score. The winner of the competition gets the opportunity to perform at a regional competition, and then the winner of that competition gets to perform at the Sydney Opera House. A young child tied for first at the event I was part of with an older guy who was talking about children facing difficulties in countries that have been used to exploit for slavery as well as natural resources. I don't believe it's helpful to use the term developing countries, but it's more helpful than third world country because we only live in one world. For the workshop, before we had our performance portion of the poetry slam, we were asked to write poems where every line begins with the same phrase, and then we were asked to write poems where every line ends with the same phrase or similar phrases. We were all asked to pick colours. The type of poems that we were asked to do were list poems. Sometimes when you do these poems, you are asked to put yourself in the shoes of the person who created the piece of art that you are using as inspiration for your writing. Sometimes you're just asked to respond emotionally to whatever you're using as inspiration. At first we were asked to just write the facts, and then later we were allowed to add our personality into what we were writing. There were young children taking part in the workshop, but they didn't participate in either the judging or the performance, unlike last year where they participated in the judging. It takes a lot of guts to share your heart and share your thoughts in poetic form. It's especially hard when you're doing it for the first time. One of my friends from my writing group who was there, she'd previously shared a poem at a wedding, and she got the jitters and she was crying when she shared it, but she managed to get through it. People were cheering her on and encouraging her. This was at the wedding. People gave her a positive response at the poetry slam also. I didn't expect to hear a story written for children about a dragon being shared by the guy who was tutoring us in poetry. He used a lot of terminology I found hard to understand. I wasn't exactly sure if I pulled off what he wanted done with the poem he was helping us to construct. I thought what he was doing was more useful than what another guy asked us to do, which was write a poem and then destroy it. I don't see the point in writing poetry that nobody gets to see. It's different if you're not happy with it, but if you're happy with it, I think you should share it with at least one person, even if you don't share it with the whole world. What I really admired about the guy who was tutoring us this year was the fact that he works with autistic guys and they perform as the Brotherhood of the Wordless. I made a video featuring one guy who was part of this group, but I set it up so only I can see it, so I'll have to download it and re-upload it so the whole world can see it instead of just me. Otherwise it doesn't really serve any purpose being up on the internet. He was happy to share his thoughts and feelings with the world. He basically communicates through a machine. His machine does all the talking for him. I don't know why Mark Zuckerberg or one of the robots or people who work for him was unwilling to let me share about the Nation of Islam with the world. I didn't say anything defamatory against Louis Farrakhan. He's followed my tweets in the past, or interacted with them in some shape or form, or one of his people has anyway. I'm not going to go into any public beef with him. I just said that Elijah Muhammad's son chose a better path than he did, because Elijah Muhammad's son chose to make his branch of the Nation of Islam open to all ethnicities, and he renounced what his father Elijah Muhammad had said about pink-skinned people being devils. You would think that a company like Facebook would be supportive of me sharing the viewpoint that it's good for an organization to be multicultural in its mindset. I don't think they're afraid of the Nation of Islam, as in the branch led by Louis Farrakhan. They're a bit double-minded when it comes to what they allow to be promoted and what they disallow. They don't like it when you talk about violence by police against African Americans on the internet. There's been 2 more shootings in America. 25 people died and other people were injured in El Paso. Pray for all the families of the victims, of those who were killed and injured. There's been so much that African Americans have had to suffer over the years, and Americans of all ethnicities have had to suffer. Replacing guns with knives doesn't solve the problem. There's people that are killed by knife attacks on the streets of London. There are people who are currently trying to intervene in the lives of those who use knives to solve their problems instead of their mouths. It's not really an issue of weapons, it's a heart issue. If you take away people's weapons, they will still use their fists to fight, they will still use their legs to kick, they will still use their heads to headbutt. If people want to express their anger, they will find a way to do it. If you take away their freedom of speech, they're more likely to go out into the streets and spill people's blood because they're not allowed to have their say. If you prevent them from having freedom of religion, if you tell them they can't even raise their children as Christians, if you tell them they can't pray in school, if you tell them they can have meditation sessions in school, they can have sessions where they sit around in circles and pretend to empty their heads, and when they sit around and pretend to think of nothing, which is impossible, because when you're trying to think of nothing, the thought you were thinking is I am thinking of nothing. It's impossible to have absolutely no thoughts can be conscious or subconscious. When you are sleeping, your subconscious mind is active. It's possibly replaying the events that you experience during the day. It mixes up bits and pieces of the movies that you watch, the music that you listen to, the books that you read, the pictures that you look at. Be they paintings or photographs. I felt sorry for this kid who couldn't tell the difference between God and the devil. He said they were one and the same. I felt sad for those people who subscribed to his point of views, though I suspect that it was perhaps because of his age that they were showing him favour. If it's the same kid that I thought it was, last year he was late to the party and he still got to share, which I thought was unfair. Cause they said that you can't share if you haven't signed up by a certain time, but I guess they couldn't miss the opportunity to hear this kid rhyme. I like this dude who sounded American called Ash. He was whistling. He's got the whole world in his hands as a fade out to his rhyme, which was a mixture of rhyme and song, I guess you could say. One guy decided that he was gonna finish his rhyme with a bell sound, or a reference to a bell. And he had 30 seconds to spare before the 2 minutes were up. He couldn't have timed it more perfectly. The MC joked that it wasn't a prop because he said you weren't allowed to use props when you're sharing your poems. I don't know why they have that rule. It was funny that technically they gave him a prop without him officially being allowed to have a prop, but he still got one anyway because of the way he set up his poem. I don't know whether he intended that to happen. It was just awesome that it happened the way it did. One lady talked about the importance of recycling. In the past, people who focus on environmental issues have won favour with the judges. That doesn't work all the time though. One big burly indigenous fellow shared how he should have kept his phone on silent. He was trying to avoid a hiding from his mother. He wasn't where he should be when he should have been there. He talked about listening and the eyes of his ancestors glistening, watching him from celestial realms. Some say it doesn't make sense that the connections we have on this world to our family won't exist in heaven, but I've heard the opposite being said by a guy who used to pastor me, who went up to heaven in an elevator when he was dreaming, and he saw everybody's face looking green. Not with jealousy or sickness, a green glow. There was nobody this year who challenged the conventions of heteronormativity. One lady enthralled me and surprised me because she said that my poem was probably the best out of the bunch. I wish she hadn't included probably in her sentence, but I'm glad she gave me a compliment because she helped to boost my confidence. Guys, if you're given the opportunity to spend time with a woman and she's told you that you're just friends, if she just calls you bro, then it's probably not a good idea to ask her if she wants you to kiss her on the cheek. That's how I ended up destroying a friendship. Don't burn a bridge of friendship like I did. Be wiser than I am, be wiser than I was. I want you to avoid heartbreak. So you can go ahead and ignore my advice if you like, and maybe it will turn out completely different for you, but this is just what it's like to walk in my shoes. And maybe I will live to breathe another day where I will meet a woman where she won't get upset when I offer a kiss to her, but right now, this is me. This is my life. I have to live with the consequences of my actions. I find my satisfaction in Jesus Christ, my Lord and Saviour, the one who laid down his life for me. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have a life at all. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have any hope at all. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have any future at all. He always answers when I call. He's got the solution to all my problems. He's got the answer to all my questions. He is always there for me. He loves me and he cares for me. He knows exactly what my future is gonna be like. He knows all the possible consequences of all the decisions I will ever make in my life. He knows my past, my present, and my future. He is all powerful. He is everywhere at once. He knows everything there is to know. He's got more knowledge in his brain than all the libraries in the world. You could cut down all the trees in the world and turn them into books, and you would never have enough books to contain all the miracles that God has done. During the course of his lifetime, he always was and always will be the uncreated one. Who created himself? No. He always was, so he didn't have to create himself, because he always was created. That blows your mind if you are a creation, because all of us are creations. Every single thing in this world is a creation, except for the supreme being who is uncreated. He can take your spirit and elevate it. They tell you at poetry slams that you lose points and if you fail to have eye contact with the audience. So I knew I was going to lose points because I didn't have eye contact with the audience. And I knew I was going to lose points because I was going to take more than 2 minutes to share my poem. But I didn't go for as long as I do on this channel. Usually more people are sharing. Usually more people share, but this year there was only 8 people. There were more than 8 people in the audience though. I thought the indigenous guy that I talked about previously had a longer poem this year, but I was wrong. He said it had actually... He said it had less words. I wasn't going to stand around and beef with him, because there are better things that I can beef about. Like, why do people continue to live deceived lives when the evidence for God's existence is all around us? Because to admit that God exists would require taking responsibility for your own life and being careful that you please your Creator and your Savior. I hate it when I say and do and think things that make you sick to your stomach. I hate it when I allow myself to become a slave to temptation. I hate disrespecting women. I want to be protecting women from all the evil in this world. I don't wanna be a part of what causes women to feel sick to the stomach when they look at guys. I want women to feel like they're respected in every work situation they are in. I want them to feel like they are safe, they are sheltered by guys. They don't have to worry about one guy trying to touch their thighs, trying to take advantage of them when they are alone together. That's not what I was doing, even though the lady that I love may say that. I know differently. I know God's watching over me. I'm conscious of the fact that I've got to live a life that glorifies Him. Thanks to Him I can be victorious over the enemy. He has prepared a table before me in the presence of my enemies. He anoints my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. My endeavor is to see the whole world fall in love with His cleverness, fall in love with His kindness. His mercy and wrath may never make sense to us. His choice of allowing some people to die and saving some people from death may never make sense to us, but He's God and we're not, so we shouldn't question His judgment. One young girl was talking about roses in her rhyme. She called them pink. I wonder if she knows about yellow roses and red roses and roses of other colors. Often we can be living under a rock. We can be prevented from seeing all that's out there. All the beautiful possibilities that are out there, because we have only experienced a small part of the world, like my friends who didn't believe me when I told them that swans in Western Australia are black instead of white, because they hadn't seen them for themselves. There are ways to bring about reparation in our world. Roosevelt and Truman were both asked to make a law preventing discrimination and segregation in the US military. Roosevelt said he was going to do something, but he didn't do anything about it, but Truman did something about it. Since the creation of the Civil Rights Act, the U.S. forces have never been segregated since. There was a time when the U.S. forces were stationed in Brisbane, One African American soldier was shot by his own troops. The African American soldiers helped to build roads in the north of my state. So as well as being thankful for the US soldiers who fought in the Cold War, who helped to protect us from being invaded by foreign armies, I'm grateful for those who helped to build roads so we can get to where we need to go, who are helping people who were previously their enemies, who visit this country as tourists. I'm so glad we can see each other as friends instead of seeing each other as enemies these days. They say war may be imminent with Iran because of tensions between US ships and Iranian forces in Iranian waters. They may say war is inevitable, but God can intervene in every single life. I could do a video about modesty, but my friend in me, Rose, I-M-I-E-B-I, Rose, has already done a video about modesty, so I don't need to walk where her toes have already tread. I can just recommend to you that you check it out for yourself. I feel compelled to say something about Oxfam. Some Oxfam workers went to Haiti and they solicited prostitutes who were young enough to be their children. And as far as I know, Oxfam has done nothing about it. I hope that they have done something about it since it was brought to their attention. You are the one who takes away tension in our world. You've got my attention. I see that I need you in the ever-passing moment. Lord God, I'm grateful for your atonement. I'm so glad I can be at one with you. I know there's no substitute for your love. I don't have to be a victim of the institution. Some people lie. They say those who have dark skin, those who have a greater amount of melanin in their skin are divine. But all of us are only mortals. We are not divine. We are made by a divine being. We reflect Him whenever we choose good over evil. Whenever we choose to help someone instead of hurt someone. Except in those cases where hurting someone is helping someone, 'cause we're speaking the truth to them in love, even if it's not received with a loving spirit. I'm so glad that you never call it quits on us. I'm so glad that you keep this fire lit inside my heart. Yeah, I can't keep it shut up in my bones. You sit on the throne of my heart. You alone I worship in spirit and truth. The whole world worships you. We don't have to be aloof, we don't have to act like we don't have a Lord and Master watching over us, 'cause we got you everywhere we go. I know you are taking care of business, you are watching over our souls. You console us, if we console you, then everything is gonna be alright. You help us out in our fight, help us to walk in forgiveness, even if we have to forgive those who shot our families dead, who burned our family down inside the house. Imagine the Israelis who had to forgive the Ammonites who plucked one of their eyes out. Some say I could never do that. I could never walk in the shoes of one who chooses forgiveness over hate. But you can relate to that person who chooses forgiveness, because if you pluck an eye out, every time someone plucks your eye out, eventually the whole world will go blind. Mahatma Gandhi said it, and Jesus went further than that. He said to turn the other cheek. That is the solution. Don't just keep plucking out people's eyes. choose to walk in the opposite spirit. That's what Gandhi didn't say, but you know that he would have seen the wisdom of Jesus Christ. Yeah, he chose not to accept Jesus for himself because he didn't like the way that Christians acted. They acted like the opposite of Christ. Sometimes we act like the opposite of Christ, but he guides our lives so we can be his hands and feet, so we can be his face, so we can shine bright for him, so we can walk in the opposite spirit that seems natural to us. To please him is my goal. He's the one who saves my soul. He's the one who consoles me like nobody's business. He's the reason for my success. I don't have to stress. Some people had reasonings when rastas gathered together. They called their meetings reasonings. They used African beats. What does Rastafari mean? Ras means prince, Tafari means emperor. The Lion of Zion, he roars out of me. Haile Selassie means the power of the Trinity. I'm not promoting Rastafarianism, I'm just explaining what Rastafarianism is. There are connecting threads all over the world. All religions point to God in some shape or form, but only Christianity will get you to heaven. I saw a meme today that made me laugh and it made me cry at the same time. It had two people in queues. The majority of people were going to the ticket booth to get in the door. It said many ways to heaven, and only one person was queuing up to get a ticket through the door that said Jesus is the only way to heaven. Many are called but few are chosen. That doesn't mean that Jesus doesn't want every single one of us to be his followers. He wants all of us to dwell with him in paradise. It's his will that none should perish, but that all should have eternal life. But it is a difficult road that he asks us to walk on. He helps us to follow in his footsteps. He's the one I rep. He's the one who gives me life after death. He's responsible for my breath. I don't have to feel like I'm wandering in the wilderness because I've got him watching over me everywhere I go. I know he's leading and guiding my soul. He consoles me. He's the one I consult. He silences the revolt in me. He's faster than Usain Bolt. When it comes to delivering messages, when it comes to keeping promises, when it comes to bringing fulfillment into my life, he is the source of my satisfaction. He is the one that I'm attracted to. Yeah, I'm attracted to an invisible being. It doesn't make sense to the world who are only attracted to visible beings. Yet I see the evidence of his miracles every day. How do you explain the existence of a conscience without explaining the existence of Jesus? How do you explain the existence of a conscience if there is no God? How do you explain the existence of everything in the universe if there is no God? This world didn't make itself. It's too complex to be just made by itself. It's too complex to just assemble itself. Even one single cell is complex. It's full of tiny bits and pieces of things. It's impossible for a single cell to reproduce itself. So how is evolution possible? It's not possible at all. The only thing that's possible is adaptation. God causes different ethnicities to adapt to different environments around them. Some of them are blessed with darker skin because they live in environments where the heat is greater. Ever since the Tower of Babel, ever since humans got together and decided to build a tower to heaven, then God had to bring about adaptation within us. It was always present within us, but it never had to manifest itself until we were spread out to the ends of the earth because of our rebelliousness. When we tried to build a tower to heaven, then the Lord came down and he confused the languages of man. He scattered the languages of man. He gave the man multiple languages. He gave men and women multiple languages. Babel worshipped the mother and the child deity. One God tried to make his mother an object of worship. That was delusional. He was a builder of cities. Babel means confusion. The solution to confusion is always Jesus Christ. We look for the answers elsewhere, but it can only be found in Jesus Christ. He is the hope that lasts forever. My endeavor is to see his name be glorified through every single corner of the galaxy, through every corner of this planet. One day every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that he is Lord. Elohim, Master of the Universe. Peace out. I hope this works.